My fellow Vincentians, greetings. I think we can all agree that one of the most pressing problems facing us today is the epidemic of crime sweeping our country. Crime affects everyone, directly or indirectly. When our safety and peace of mind are undermined, it affects us profoundly. The first duty of any government is to protect the lives and livelihoods of its people. Over the last year, we have seen crime become more prevalent in our communities and on our streets. This year is one of the most violent in recent memory. And we are not far from the 2016 record of 40 murders in a year. The Gonsalves government has overseen one of the worst periods in our history. And worryingly, they offer no hope for an end in sight. The number of homicides this year stands at 37. Most have been victims of gun violence, and there were other gun-related crimes that did not result in death. All are profoundly serious for our country. St. Vincent and the Grenadines' current murder rate is 36 out of every 100,000 and is among the worst in the OECS. My friends, you and I know that this is a crisis. The only people who seem to think otherwise are those in government. Instead of tackling the problem and proposing solutions, the Prime Minister and Minister of National Security appears to dismiss the alarming upsurge in violent crime with statements that young males have a fascination with guns and that the youth should live in the real world and not the one they see on social media and films. Such casual remarks fail to appreciate the gravity of the problem and fail to assure the community that help is on the way. Law enforcement personnel feel unsupported and demoralized. They are denied the tools to fight crime effectively. Also, there are credible reports of commendable efforts in investigating crimes being thwarted by undermining interventions. Simply put, criminals have been literally getting away with murder. They no longer fear being caught and being punished. Reversing this requires tough choices and a willingness to be decisive and determined in combating crime. It requires, most importantly, understanding the real world in which young people are living and have been living over the past 2 decades of this government. We note, for example, that unemployment is extremely high. In June this year, the World Bank reported that youth unemployment is a staggering 41% of persons between the ages of 15 and 24 years. This rate exceeds that of our neighbors in St. Lucia at 38.7%, Barbados at 30.6%, and Trinidad and Tobago at 12.7%. And it far exceeds the average for Caribbean small states of just over 25%. We further note that poverty has gotten worse in our country. As governments before had done, the present government commissioned an assessment of poverty in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They reported that study for the period 2008 to 2018 has still not been released by the government. But we got a copy and we made it public. The damning evidence in that report was that poverty in this country got worse over the period of ULP government, moving from 30.2% of the population in 2008 to 36, or just over 36% in 2018. In some communities, the situation worsened dramatically. Against this backdrop, criminality continues to project an emboldened face in our society. Coming out of a spate of shootings earlier this year, there were reports of individuals associated with known gangs threatening to take justice into their own hands, night or day, and in any place of their choosing. Though the powers that be dismiss these threats and incidents as being restricted to a small group of people, recent events bring home to us this stark reality. Anyone at any time can be collateral damage in these reckless shootouts. The hail of bullets that several weeks ago resulted in the deaths of 2 young men and the wounding of several others in the Kingston area shows that the problem is getting worse, not better. And the risk to everyone is increasing. So, the youngster enjoying a football game at the park, the nurse out for an evening with friends, the laborer going home after a hard day's work, or the churchgoer picking up groceries after church, none can take their surroundings for granted. Unfortunately, any of them could become an unintended victim because stray bullets don't know who they hit and they don't care who they kill. My friends, it does not have to be that way. As a country, a God-fearing country, we are better than that. And we do not have to accept living in that way. But government must act to make it better. However, the present government does not have the will, the moral authority, nor the competence to tackle the problem. They lack ideas and therefore they lack solutions. There is a better, more hopeful alternative that will improve life for our people and make St. Vincent and the Grenadines a beacon of good governance. We have called for effective means to fight crime, not merely with words, but with a clear plan of action, which we will implement as soon as we replace this failed government. To be effective, we must understand what gives rise to crime, then develop strategies and programs to address the problem. Accordingly, we call for the implementation of the following measures. First, we must focus on crime prevention. Remember, an ounce of prevention is still better than a pound of cure. We should therefore invest heavily up front in crime prevention. In this regard, the programs outlined in the NDP's Spiritual and Social Redemption Charter some years ago should be implemented because they're still relevant. The Charter promotes positive, community-oriented programs that would steer vulnerable young people away from crime towards socially positive behavior. We must restore trust and confidence in the police and the criminal justice system. Trust in the system now is shaken and broken. Political connections should not shield anyone involved in a shooting, a theft, domestic violence, or other crimes from proper investigation and rigorous prosecution. Justice must be equal for all. This will help everyone and will help the police in their work and their lives. They and their families, after all, are members of society and, like the rest of us, are equally vulnerable to crime and violence. Further, the police cannot solve crimes by themselves. They need the community to provide information during investigations and to be witnesses in criminal cases. We can promote this by implementing and pursuing community policing. With specific training in community policing, the police would engage in trust-building activities in communities. For example, regular meetings between the police and community members should be introduced so that they could work together to prevent and solve crimes. The police must see their mission as serving and protecting people and be keen to embrace the community in so doing. We must also increase the presence and the visibility of police in our streets and communities, not in a hostile manner, but to assure people that they are there to protect them. We need a well-resourced and well-equipped criminal justice system. There continues to be a justifiable outcry in our country about the ineffectiveness of our criminal justice system that too often fails to impose appropriate penalties to deter offenders. Recall the case earlier this year of the assault on a 4-year-old girl by an adult male, in which the penalty was a mere 4 years in jail. The public was outraged by this light sentence and called for stiffer penalties in such cases. And we completely agree with that. Creating an effective and well-resourced criminal justice system involves the police, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the courts, that is magistrates and judges, and the prison system. It is vital that these components are appropriately equipped and that they function professionally and independently. It also involves reviewing our criminal laws and revising them to provide greater sentencing options for magistrates and judges. Introducing measures that would improve access to justice. Increasing the number of magistrates. Expanding the High Court and improving its facilities. Expanding laboratory services to expedite investigation and prosecution of offenses, and thereby eliminate the backlog in criminal cases. The system must also support victims of crimes, such as rape, sexual assaults, and domestic violence, to help them to recover and resume their lives as best they can. Further, we must promote rehabilitation of offenders. Fighting crime is not only about punishing offenders. It must also involve rehabilitation. Offenders should be provided with programs that will help to keep them from reoffending and from becoming a perpetual menace to society. In this regard, we should establish a young persons rehabilitation center for non-violent young offenders. This will prevent many young offenders from becoming hardened criminals, lost to a life of crime. Focusing on rehabilitation is not coddling criminals, as some might say. On the contrary, it is effective crime fighting that protects all of us. Rehabilitation has been proven to work and is cost effective. We should also reintroduce the police cadet service to provide young people with an avenue for entering the police service. We must professionalize and modernize the police service. To achieve the best outcomes in crime fighting, the best officers must be recognized, supported, and rewarded. This includes reviewing remuneration and promotion practices for the police, including the auxiliary police, and ensuring that they are done not as political favors, but on merit. Fairness is key to success. Modern police stations should be constructed in suitable locations. These new stations and existing ones must be equipped with basic crime-fighting tools. Notably, the most basic of all, reliable transportation and modern communication and crime-fighting technologies. Extensive and ongoing training of police and prison officers is needed in areas such as information technology and investigation technologies. There must also be specialization of service where necessary. For example, a separate fire service with substations in various parts of the country should be established. This will create career opportunities for officers and improve crime fighting. Another example of specialization required is in combating tourism-related crimes, which are so damaging to our economy. A special service to investigate and prosecute such crimes, including against yacht visitors, is urgently needed because they require a quick response and measures to keep victims properly informed about their cases even after they have left our shores. Predial larceny is another area that requires special attention. Agriculture, as we all know, is critical to our economy. But the stealing of farmers' crops and animals is out of control and is destroying agriculture and destroying farmers' livelihoods. There can be no tolerance for such crimes. For though they may not make the headlines, they hurt farmers badly and do terrible damage to our economy. Combating predial larceny requires more than just rural constables, though. It requires a comprehensive approach that involves tackling agricultural commodities or tracking agricultural commodities and animals and punishing offenders who are detected, including those who aid and abet thieves by buying the goods from them at cut-rate prices. The upholder, as well as the thief, must be held accountable. And we must be serious about that. The auxiliary police. This police service plays a pivotal role in assisting the regular police service in the day-to-day duties and in providing security for ordinary people, especially for children at our schools. We salute you for what you do, but we know that even after all your hard work, there is little or no benefits for you, and this causes low morale. We believe that all auxiliaries, the traffic wardens, tourist police, rural constables, should be pensionable. That is fair and just. There must also be opportunities for training and promotion. Such measures, they demonstrate a respect for the workers in this area and would improve their morale and performance. Domestic violence and sexual violence against women and girls are a plague in our country. One case is one too many. But the current widespread nature of the problem is a national disgrace. It must be addressed urgently and seriously. These types of offenses require sensitivity and specialized training to investigate and prosecute effectively. A domestic violence and sexual offenses unit in the police service, staffed by specially trained officers and counselors, is required for success in combating such crimes. Also, importantly, wherever possible, prosecution must be pursued, even when the victims do not wish to proceed. Finally, the mission of the police is to serve and to protect. But they can only do so when they themselves stay within the scope of the law. Acting in the name of the law does not give license to the police to abuse crime suspects or other people. To stamp out such abuse, a civilian complaint commission should be established to receive complaints from civilians and also from fellow police officers against police misconduct. This process will reduce police abuse and it will promote better relations between the police and the people and make policing more effective. Finally, it is no longer enough for us to simply hope that things will get better with the passage of time, or that the criminals will come to their senses and behave better. We must have a plan that will reduce crime and make us safe again. We know that rising crime is not a problem that will be solved overnight, and that there is no single, all-encompassing solution. Some measures can be implemented immediately with great effect. For example, Coast Guard patrols can end yacht break-ins. Other measures must start now and take effect over time. To summarize, we will introduce community policing, strengthen the police service and justice system, and rebuild trust in them. Equip the police service with modern tools and procedures to defeat criminals. Provide programs for rehabilitation for young offenders to help to prevent them from reoffending. Protect women and girls from sexual violence and domestic abuse with dedicated services and support. Establish a separate fire service. Make auxiliary police pensionable and provide training and promotion opportunities for them. Finally, have streamlined procedures and specialized units to respond to tourism-related crimes, especially yacht break-ins, and predial larceny, that is, the stealing of farmers' animals and ground provision and other crops. From all that I have said, it should be clear that combating crime is not just for the police. It is everybody's business. It requires us to work together at all levels to succeed. It requires hard work. We can't just throw up our hands in resignation, as the government has done. We can effectively reduce crime and make our communities safe again. There is no doubt in my mind that we can do better. Indeed, with the problem of crime and violence, we have to do better. We have no choice. We must do better. And with effective and proactive leadership, we will. Thank you, my friends, and God bless you. May God bless us all. And I hope to speak with you again before Christmas.